Welcome to Miley Media. If you are returning, I appreciate you listening. I hope that you enjoy. I was in my early 20s and lived alone in an apartment complex in a rougher part of Houston. It sat aside an elementary school, which helped, but it still wasn't an area that I would go walking around in at night. It was a leaky apartment, and I do have a mold allergy, something that I have not ruled out. I also have a history of extremely morbid nightmares and night terrors, paired with an overactive imagination. However, this was before those became routine issues for me. I did not partake in drugs of any kind, including alcohol. But I can remember when the nightmares started. It was the same one over and over again. It was always in first-person views, like from my own eyes, so I didn't know what it looked like. I was always in control, because it played out like a movie, but I was in an empty apartment and jumped by a dark figure, stabbed multiple times. I distinctly remember staring down bloody blue jeans and worn white tennis shoes as I am being dragged, leaving a blood trail on the beige carpet, as well as the strange squishing noises the knife made while it went in and out erratically, almost pulling bits of flesh out of my chest with each stab. I was tied up and wrapped up and eventually propped up against a wall. Once the dark figure turned off the light and shut the door, I woke up. Every single time. I have a specific way of dreaming, or even dreamscape, and this was not it. I would wake up deeply disturbed and unable to fall back asleep. Once I was able to fall asleep, I would just have it once or twice more. I figured it was stress, having just started a new job and also having just ended a toxic relationship that was causing some residual drama in my life. About 4 or 5 days in, the nightmares were still occurring. They were getting worse in the sense that I would wake up holding my chest, almost able to feel the stabbing in my dream. It was at this point I started feeling a dark presence in the room with me, to the point of being too afraid to get up and turn on my light or leave the room at all, like I was being watched. This is the point at which I started talking to my friends about it. It was affecting my sleep, and I was showing up to work extremely tired, vocalizing my bizarre experience to people close around me, and even to my new management. Around the 6th or 7th day, I was feeling a dark presence constantly in the apartment, even in the daytime. I had also moved into the living room and had started sleeping on my futon since I started waking up from those nightmares and seeing a dark figure form against my bedroom wall, about 6 feet tall, no features, just black, and hearing a masculine, "Get me out," repeatedly somewhere in between sleep and waking. It was also by this time that there was a smell growing in my apartment. It was faint and hard to describe, like a pile of rotting fish mixed in with dog shit and the nasty sweetness of old fruit, but faint. I thought it was mold or common sewer problems in the area, or a bad tenant. Samson was a kitten at the time and would often appear spooked, all puffed up, hissing, running around the bedroom. I thought it was normal kitten behavior, like he was practicing his little lion skills. I didn't even think it was strange how he would sleep against my chin under the covers with me. This still may have been the case, but his behavior was unusual. The people close around me encouraged me to seek professional help at this point. I wasn't sleeping and experiencing fluctuations in my mood and performance. I was also feeling depressed. I would jokingly call what I was going through a morbid quarter-life crisis, before finally agreeing to talk to a professional about it. The first and only place I went was my general doctor. He concluded that I was experiencing generalized anxiety under tremendous stress. No shit. I was provided with some resources, referrals for some therapy, and a more thorough assessment, and followed my appointment with a 10-hour shift at work. When I got home from work, there were emergency lights all over my parking lot. I noted caution tape along the stairway opposite side of my apartment as I drove around to my parking spot. I had to maneuver around a news station van to get up the stairs into my apartment. I caught words like murder and unidentified victim before retreating inside. Since most of the activity was on the other side of my building, I sat outside on my balcony to watch and listen, but didn't gather much. I slept well that night. No night terrors, no nightmares. Surprising, since I was experiencing anxiety over what I had gathered the night before. But I was also exhausted, and maybe meeting with a professional had eased my mind. I woke up by a phone call from a close friend who had texted the night before. She was familiar with the troubles I had been having and was freaking out with the details she had gathered about the incident. An unidentifiable male, suspected illegal drug trafficker, that had taken residency in the apartment. Reportedly, quite bare suspected drug stop, per the news, was found stabbed to death in an apartment closet, tied up and wrapped in trash bags, lower jaw removed. The body was found after the tenants living directly below reported a strong, foul odor and fluid leaking through their ceiling, which was actually blood. As for the closet the body was found in, it shared the same wall as my bedroom that I was seeing the dark personage on. For the sake of time, I'll just say that everything immediately returned to normal. I was sleeping again, and feeling around the apartment was much lighter. Due to tenant laws and such, I was allowed out of my lease early due to recent events. It was an offer that I took without question, promptly moving to a slightly less crappy apartment a few miles away. I've tried to explain this logically to myself for years, only sharing it with a few people. For a long time, I figured that it was some sort of chemical reaction, some primal trigger, the smell of a decomposing body causing something to fire off in my brain that there was danger. But the specifics of my nightmare, the dark person against my wall at night, and the overall sense of someone watching me are things I still can't explain. Number 2. I started bartending when I turned 21 and worked at the same bar for about 2.5 years. This bar was in an old building in the downtown of a small suburb of Tulsa. The old type of downtown where all buildings are like 2 stories and they all share walls. This particular one shared each side wall with another business. To the east was a Mexican restaurant, and to the west was another business I cannot fully remember. The north side of the building faced the road and was all glass. 3 ceiling-to-floor windows, 2 on the west side, 1 on the east side, with the glass door separating them. The parking was on the street as well, so if you're parked in front of the building, you can see in. This will be important later. It was a 2-story building, but there wasn't a second floor in the front half, and it was all open with the exposed wires, beams, ducts, etc. It also had the original old metal, fancy ceiling tiles. The back half was the storage room, bathroom, and the pool table and jukebox. If you go in the storeroom, there's an area in the back that you can crawl up there, and it is an attic area. It would be over a pool table area in the bathroom. The first experience I had there was actually before I worked there. I had been going to this bar a few months already, and had become great friends with the owner and the tenders. Me and one of the girls that tended were standing towards the front of the building, and at the same time there was just a curtain covering the door to the storage room, because the actual door had been kicked in by the owner's husband. So we were standing by the jukebox, which was on the opposite side of the bar, and a little bit close to the front. We both at the same time see a figure walk through the curtain into the storage room. Mind you, there is only 2 people in the building. They were both sitting at the bar. We walked over to the curtain, and it was moving like someone had walked through it, and we looked to find no one in the storage room. Months went by with small things happening, like me hearing a woman's voice coming from the attic when I was in the storage room, to the water faucet on the sink turning on full blast with no one behind the bar. Small things like that. Too many to remember completely. The next thing that was one of the major things I remember, it was late into the morning hours, about 3:30. I had a busy night tending alone. My friend had stayed behind to help me clean up and close down. The whole time we kept hearing a woman talking. We thought it was coming from outside or maybe from the building next to us. As we finished, I always checked all the rooms to make sure no one was in the building. I walked to the very back to check the bathroom and the back door. Walking towards the front, it felt like someone was walking close to me. It felt like someone was breathing on my head. I turned around and immediately felt a breeze of cold air that made my hair on the back of my neck stand up. I rushed to set the alarm and lock up. My friend got in her car and pulled off. I was backing out of my space, and there standing in the window a blonde woman in a long white dress just staring at me. I stopped and was stunned. I finally put my car in drive and floored it. I got home and I was scared to get out of my car. I called my friend and told her what was going on and made her talk to me while I walked into the house. The next day I opened and the owner came up to me. I told her what had happened the night before, and she told me that I hadn't been the only person to see the same woman. She had seen her along with several other people, but she told me that she was nice. She just liked to make her presence known. After this, though small things happened. Once was one of my regulars sitting at the bar. If you're sitting at the bar, there's a huge mirror with shelves on both sides holding alcohol and glasses. But if you look straight, you can see yourself. She had just got there, and I had just opened, so there was no one else in the bar. I poured her a beer and set it down, then walked to the back of the store to get another bottle of vodka, when I heard her scream at me. I came running back, and she said as she was taking a drink, she saw a woman walking behind her in the mirror, and when she turned, there was no one there. But the biggest, most crazy thing that happened to me, a few months prior to this incident, a group of young adults came in from China, and they had a cigarette with Chinese writing on them, and they gave me one. I had a shelf that I kept my stuff on. So I smoked half the cigarette and put it on the shelf. So fast forward 3 months later, we had fired a bartender a couple days prior, so I had a locksmith come change the locks, and I changed the alarm code. Well, I hadn't told the owner or given her a new key yet. The next day, I got to work and opened the door, went and shut the alarm off, and turned around to see that Chinese cigarette was smoking in the ashtray. Mind you, every night I put all the ashtrays in the sink to soak. The cigarette had just been lit. There wasn't a lighter or matches in sight. That was the most freaky, unexplained thing that ever happened to me there. Number 3. So, a few days ago, me and my friends are getting off the bus to go to my house and hang out and chill. And as we're chilling, my buddy Mick brings up something about me asking my mom if we could have a bonfire. This is where things get interesting. So, I go around to the kitchen to ask her if I could have a bonfire, and she says yes, as long as it's not too big and we're able to control it. But we didn't give 2 fucks about that. We were gonna make a big ass fire after she fell asleep. So the day goes by, and now it's 11 at night. And my mom's passed out in her room, and we're just having the time of our lives, jumping over the fire and being teenagers. And we decided to finally sit down around the fire, and boy did we have this motherfucker going. You could see the whole backyard. Shit was crazy. So anyway, me, Dylan, Chris, Mick, and Xavier were all sitting in there, and I started telling jokes and shit, making them laugh, when I heard a woman sobbing, not even like 40 feet away. I swear on everything, and they can too. Anyway, we all stand up, out of our chairs at the same fucking time, and I turned to my friends and asked if they hear that, and they couldn't say nothing. They were all as stiff as boards, except for me and Dylan. So he says, "Yeah, we can hear it, bro," in a shaky voice. Now I'm scared as balls because I know I'm not tripping. So my scared ass decided to yell something out, and I don't even remember really what I said. It was just something out of fear and courage, and as I said it, we started to smell rotten flesh like a dead body. After we all could smell what we were smelling, we hear the most blood-curdling scream from a woman. Once I heard that, I started to run for my back door. As I went to go run, I noticed my friends weren't moving. They were fucking frozen with fear. I literally pushed all of them when I went by because they were in some type of huddle and said to run. And they did, and we all booked it from my back door in the pitch dark. I felt like I didn't take no more than 6 big-ass jumping strides to get to the back door. Once we were in, we didn't hear anything. I went around and locked all the doors and windows and went and woke up my mom to tell her what had just happened. It's been a couple of days since that's happened, so I've had some time to at least try to wrap my head around what it could have been. On my father's side, it's Mexican, so I was growing up, they'd tell me all these crazy Mexican folklores and legends, and one I remember is called La Chuza. It's a witch that lives in the trees, and before it attacks, you smell rotten flesh, and then a scream, and when I put 2 and 2 together, I was freaked out. Now all I can think about is, did I actually have an encounter with that thing? How did we all get away? All I can say, it's a blessing to still be here, and I'm thankful for that. And the rest of that I have to say, if I encounter or hear it again, I'll update you guys for sure. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed these stories today. Make sure you subscribe and share. Let me know in the comments what kind of stories you want to hear next.